Hello and welcome. Welcome to It's All Comical for July the 30th, 2021. I welcome all of you, all of the maybe one or two of you that will watch this week. I am in the early stages here of kind of trying to get my shit together as I evolve an online presence. Again, my name is Russ. I'm Russ Phillips, your guy in Guam, at least for the time being. This is the vlog. It's all comical, related to everything having to do with my online presence and public outreach and related to my writing. So I write. I'm writing with a partner. Comic scripts. I'm a screenwriter, and you can find me, and I'm going to direct you every week to look for me on medium.com. This week I wrote an article which is getting a little bit of viewing and seems to get some nice positive reaction to it, called The Funniest Damn Thing I Ever Saw. It talks a little bit about my time in the late 90s in Chicago. With a buddy of mine, Tom McGee, as a shout out to Tom. Tom and I were up there in Chicago, living briefly from '99 through 2000, trying to make our way as young stand-up comics. Obviously, I didn't really make much of my attempt at stand-up comedy. I had a sort of a short, glorious period of time where I was a stage performer, trying to make my bones doing stand-up comedy. I've talked a little bit about how as a stand-up comic I'd get a lot of other comedians giving me something of a backhanded compliment, saying that they really kind of wish that they could write like me. I did okay as a stand-up, and unfortunately, much like us, really, like with everything else in with the things that I've been trying to do creatively, I mean, there's a reason you end up 50 years old and basically not having made it, either as a writer or a performer or, really doing any of these things that I really do love, but I've not, I think I represent legions of people out there who may have some talent for the things that they like, that they love, that they would love to be doing with themselves. Certainly, when it comes to art, but I mean, the world is littered with mid-level executives and people that really, I guess, doing all manner of work in all walks of life, who are had a band or whatever in their youth, and it's just you can look at it. I'm 51 years old now, and I'm still trying to be a rock star, I guess. But now I've got a different perspective on it all, So what I wanted to talk a little bit about this week, so I'm doing some comic work. Be on the lookout for that. Again, I'll keep sort of plugging what I'm doing with the comics. My friend Bill Morrison, artist in the UK, is working on our first couple of offerings. We've got a number of stories that are written and ready to go. They're turned over to Bill now. They're in his capable hands. Bill's been doing some study on a particular grayscale technique. Some of the things that we're looking to do are probably going to be monochromatic, black and white, because it suits the sort of noir and horror sort of vision for those stories that we're for those particular sets of stories. That there are other things that we do, I'm sure, that will have plenty of color to them, but he's doing some interesting stuff, sort of building a look for so he's laying a lot of important groundwork and making some wonderful progress behind the scenes. And so soon the world will be able to see our anthology series that we're looking to call Nocturnity Blue. and obviously as we find platform and distribution for that, that will be part of It's All Comical. And then again, I write a lot of humor pieces over on Medium.com. Look for me on the Haven publication. I've written for The Shadow. A couple of things that are over there. Those are, I think The Shadow is a little more kind of life observations, what they're looking. So they're a little. It's not, my writing is always kind of humorous, but I think when I'm sort of writing about things that I hope would be sort of maybe inspirational or helpful for people, health, wellness, just life. I would say life coaching, but again, I'm sort of crafting and evolving and molding a positivity and personal development kind of message that's coinciding with my own personal journey. So again, this video series began primarily as an ongoing document of my weight loss journey, which, as I talk about week to week, but I never assume that you've seen any of the previous videos, so I kind of end up rehashing a lot of things. The weight loss is sort of an attempt at coherence, at being coherent in my pursuit of really everything, right? It's kind of a 50-year-old, trying to make a late, strong push for a good final act. I guess I could live to be 100, in which case, I'm into Act 2, I suppose. It doesn't really matter. However you look at it, however much time I've got, it's, I'm enjoying and loving the journey, and I'm just trying to, again, it's about a personal evolution thing, and I hate to bore you with it. I can't, I'm sorry that I'm already 7.5 minutes in here. Again, July the 30th, 2021, as it is here in Guam, and I point that out because as it's, as you can see the window behind me here, it is daytime here in Guam on Friday the 30th of July, and which means that it's really sort of late day back in the continental U.S., late day on Thursday the 29th, which means that really it's only been one day that all of us have had to come to terms with the news that the bassist for the Lil Ol Band from Texas, the great Dusty Hill, has passed in his sleep. It was announced a day ago. Being from Texas and a guy that loves sort of hard rock and bluesy rock and classic rock, I can say that I've had a long history of fandom for the work of ZZ Top, and I think. They're a band that sometimes it's like they've been around for so long, and they evolve, and I think as many people do, came to sort of really, they really came into my awareness and captured me as a member of Gen X. I was, also part of the early MTV generation. I can tell you, we were living in the New Jersey area. There was a show from Japanese animation called Battle of the Planets, G-Force. It used to run on some cable channel. We had, my mother's second husband, Ray, always was a very sort of tech-forward kind of guy. He was, even after my parents, again, my stepdad, I called him Dad for a lot of years. In a lot of ways, I'm a child of the 70s, and many of us have had, multiple sets of parents. So, my stepdad, Ray, a guy that, he's an electrical engineer. He worked for Caltex Petroleum for many, many years, and then went on after in his post-Caltex life to he ran his own sort of computer tech business. I believe it was called Savoy Systems. Point being is that, you know, and he, even, you know, after when we lived with him, and then after he and my mother got divorced, he had this gigantic satellite dish out in the backyard, you know, like well before anybody had, like, you know, Dish TV and Direct TV with the tiny, you know, I say tiny, but, you know, if you've got one of those gray dishes, like, or I'm talking about the big, like 10-foot across jobber way back in the day. So in early 80s, when my mother and Ray were together, and even before they were married, we had cable. He had cable television, you know, then. And so, you know, I was fortunate enough, didn't know it at the time, while I was, you know, my brother and I were really young kids, and we're looking for our G-Force, and we had this giant box, and you had buttons on it to change the channels, and it clunk, 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 you know, this knob thing. And you know, I remember it was channel G on the cable system that we had back in Leonia, New Jersey, where we were living at the time. And where the heck is G-Force? G-Force ain't here. There's, you know, there's this shit these people are playing, you know, all right, it's music video. How long does this last? Is G-Force not on? Well, you know, obviously history tells us that, you know, the day that they debuted MTV, you know, it became this 24 hours, like a radio station with videos. And those of us that grew up with MTV, you remember, you know, your summer days, a lot of them would just be spent with this thing on all the time. And you'd be watching all kinds of music videos. And that's how we, you know, a lot of people came to know ZZ Top. They, you know, they, in addition to playing this amazing brand of bluesy, hard rock, sort of southern rock, but very, again, very blues oriented. They sort of evolved their sound a bit and released the album Eliminator, and then they made a series of iconic music videos. And they themselves had sort of evolved from a place that, you know, yes, now I've gone back to grow my appreciation of the history of the band, that I'm going to give you a recommendation. Check out on Netflix the ZZ Top Lil Ol Band from Texas, which is, you know, a documentary, but it's obviously one of the nicknames, popular nickname for the band. And, you know, they had evolved from what they were doing in the 70s. And you got to know that the lead guitarist for ZZ Top is a guy named Billy Gibbons, and he's an incredible guitarist. You know, he had played with Jimi Hendrix, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, I believe, you know, in the 60s. And then at some point he and Frank Beard and Dusty Hill came together, and, you know, lightning struck, and the Lil Ol Band from Texas was born. And they, you know, had not stopped rocking for basically 50 years, releasing album after album of, and the reason that I really want to point to that Netflix documentary, because I think it's, you know, you live through life and we move through time, and we lose sort of the big picture perspective at times. So I tell you, the documentary is a great way to sort of kind of remember everything, the whole evolution of this band through time, and how they really did evolve themselves and evolve their sound. You know, I think it's easy to sort of pigeonhole them and think that they sort of did just one kind of thing, but clearly they really exploded and found a whole new generation of fans with the early MTV throughout the 80s, the Eliminator album. you know, and you're talking about Sharp Dressed Man, you're talking about TV dinners, you're talking about, oh my God, I mean the whole, you know, this is an out. See, this is weird because it's like today we don't even talk about albums, right? I think, you know, modern music is, I don't even really know how young people today find their music. Because you don't listen to a radio, you know, you've got these streaming services, and people are listening to things, I guess, in single releases, and you know, legs. I mean, I'm thinking of like all that. Every song on that album was, well, I mean, they had a lot of videos, at least 3 or 4 like major videos. I think Sharp Dressed Man, though, was the one that really kind of like, you know, got the ball rolling, and then they had this look, right? Like, you know, they sort of were these, you know, guys in the 70s. And again, they had a whole big thing. There was some kind of traveling, like, see, that's before my time appreciating the band. They had this amazing show that they ran with that I guess was sort of like a traveling circus sort of situation, and that was, you know, again, and then they evolved their music once during that sort of late 70s disco era. They were doing something else that was unique and interesting unto them, and then they had a unique and different sound for that MTV Eliminator album. And then they, you know, got back to sort of more bluesy roots, and, you know, but I mean, they always kept it rooted in the blues and the rock, and I was very fortunate in the 1980s to see them live, and then just randomly here in the last several years, you know, again, I'm your guy in Guam. I'm from the Texas, you know, Dallas, Texas area. I was living in a town north of Dallas called Lewisville, Texas. So it's a small town, you know, it's still kind of an urban suburb to Dallas. So it's, you know, so don't get pictures of wide open pastures and cows and being 100 miles from the nearest anything. Not at all. You know, it's a very just sort of residential urban Dallas, but on the north side of the city. And there's a festival, which again, I didn't really know much of anything about, but you know, the 50th anniversary of the Texas International Pop Festival. So if you, it was in 2019 rather. So that takes you back from 2019 to '69, and so just to kind of give it some, you know, some history, or to give it some reference. This would have been in the wake of what happened at Woodstock. You know, you had music festivals sort of popped up in that same tradition. So, you know, the Texas International Pop Festival down in Texas, sort of a Texas version of Woodstock, and it was a multi-day event, I guess, then. You know, and I don't know how many times they may have revived it over the years, but they decided for the 50th anniversary to sort of do the, you know, much like they did, you know, we've now had subsequent Woodstock music festivals, so the same sort of thing in 2019. So August 31st, ZZ Top was there. Chicago was a band that also performed at that festival. A number of other acts. I believe Johnny Winter was there at some point. I mean, you know, some you would know, some you, or at least if you're familiar with, I guess, more classic rock era sort of, you know, bands and acts. But we were really excited about, hey, ZZ Top, and they're playing from where I lived, essentially, you know, what I would consider down the street from where we lived, and they set up a large outdoor venue, a huge stage, out on a golf course in Lewisville, Texas, and we bought the tickets. A couple of buddies of mine. A shout out to my buddies Sean and Danny, and we went down there, had a great time, and really we were there to see ZZ Top, but we got there early and caught some of the earlier, a little bit of the earlier acts before they hit the stage. But so ZZ Top, these guys, they've got these long, Billy Gibbons and Dusty Hill had these long waist length beards, right? That's sort of their gig. They're always wearing shades, always in some form of a hat. Usually they dressed relatively similar, and then behind the drum kit, Frank Beard, ironically the only guy in the band without a beard. But he had his mustache and he'd be playing. And three guys that clearly, from the documentary and from sort of any impression that you might have of them as fans, really just love playing with each other. And I want to say that, having seen them in really recent, and how fortunate, right, before anyone knew about the outbreak that would be coming out in the next, several months, there, end of August 2019, and at that point would have had no idea, that I'd soon be living in Guam. So, for so many reasons, fortunate to have caught ZZ Top in the later years and within recent memory. It certainly does feel like it was not very long ago at all. And, Dusty Hill was 72. He passed, again, day before last. Dusty Hill at 72, so in 2019 he was a 70-year-old guy. But man, let me tell you, and I don't know how old Billy Gibbons is. I'm assuming he's about the same age. Maybe Dusty Hill's a little bit older. Maybe, I don't know, or Billy's older. I don't know what Billy's age is, but clearly they're all guys, of similar age in advanced years. Touring as hard as ever, apparently. I mean, you go to their website right now. I looked at their website before starting this video, and they've got a full tour. I mean, they're just going and going, man. And in 2019, at 70 years old, they were bringing it. I don't know, they were bringing it. I don't know that the experience in 2019. I mean, yes, they're the different lineup of songs, perhaps. They have a huge catalog that they're drawing from, and they can only play nothing but hits and fill out an entire evening's program, right? So they do a concert of again, just standards, things that their fans would be clamoring for, and would be very disappointed if they went home from a ZZ Top concert and didn't get. I guess it will remain to be seen what happens with those guys now. Do Billy and Frank soldier on? I feel like they love music, and they will continue in some form or fashion. Sort of ironically, in looking, I wasn't aware, like, who would be. I'm not keeping up with ZZ Top on a daily basis, but apparently they were on tour, and on the 23rd of the month, so about a week ago, prior to Dusty's passing, they made an announcement that he was heading home from the tour to recoup from a hip-related something. I don't know if that had played into what caused him to pass. They just report that he passed in his sleep. So, I guess I just wanted to, being a fan of the band, and I mean, it brings up a lot of memories. Brings up my memories again of like going to my very first, I believe ZZ Top might have been the very first major concert that I've ever been to. And I can say I'm not somebody. I'm a writer and a stand-up comic. I never got to. Music was not a big focus in our family. Certainly, I think a lot of people who end up being professional musicians, they grow up with it. Wasn't important in our house. Like, we as kids were not we were not introduced to piano lessons or any of that sort of thing. I think, my son, my wife talks about that, we would probably want to get him to have some form of music lessons. Her older kids, whoops, there they are. Her older kids played in band in high school. They're musically adept. And it's one of the regrets, I would say, of my own life. Is that I'm not musically literate, or I don't play anything. I'm just a fan. I'm just somebody who appreciates the music that I do appreciate. And I guess what I remember, the experience is so different, right? In 2019, of course, as anybody does, if you're going to a music act show or really any type of show, you go online and go to a Ticketmaster.com or whoever.com, whatever outlet.com, and you put in credit card information and you print out something, or you've got a ticket thing that they can scan on your phone. I think that's probably what we did. I don't know if we had printed tickets for that or if we just used phones to enter the grounds for that show. But that's the way of business in 2019. I can tell you in the 1980s when they came through, and it would have been a Ticketmaster situation. And I think about the differences for young people today who are into the sorts of things that I'm into, in terms of movies, in terms of music. There are experiences that were treasured experiences that are now kind of gone and lost forever. And one of them would be, back in those days, the very first time I would have seen ZZ Top, you went to a Ticketmaster venue, and it probably had to be at a mall somewhere. And as a matter of fact, we did, right? You went, and you knew what day the tickets were going to go on sale. And there was no, it's counting down on your computer and everybody submits their thing at the same time and you hope to get a ticket because it sells out in, microseconds or something. In those days you went and you camped out. So, this is something like, the young music fan today will never know that kind of adventure of camping out for tickets. And it's literally what it sounds like. People would line up at, of course, the Ticketmaster is somewhere at this particular mall. I want to say the Valley View Mall. It might have been that. It might have been, there's another mall, and I forget the name of that other mall, but, different malls, I guess, had different, Ticketmaster locations. You would just line up on the sidewalk and you'd be dropped off, your teenage kid with a sleeping bag or not, and you'd be out there with a bunch of people that, and it felt dangerous as hell because you're out there with, when you're young and innocent and and maybe a bit sheltered, and these are your first experiences with people who are sitting out there who are they're older than you and they may or may not have drugs on them or who knows what, man, and then of course over the course of night, you're there all night long waiting for the ticket venue to open at whatever the hell time it was in the morning that they opened, and somebody would come and sort of organize the line. And so however it was, and it's weird, right, because there'd be this sort of campground camaraderie and general weirdness going on as you're camped out for these tickets. And then, now it's starting to, and then people get serious. Well, wait a minute, no, hold on, you're there, and I'm here, and this, da-da-da-da-da, and everyone's very concerned about where they are in the line, whereas, last night, it was all chill. That's a memory. I believe it was, camping out. My memory again, it's feeling sort of dangerous. My memory is being camped out there and a car driving by and some young lady who I'm going to lay money to say she was likely inebriated, leaned out and flashed the crowd. That's not bad when you're 15, right? Or however old I was. Honestly, 15, 16, maybe. I don't even know. Not sure, again, ZZ Top in that era. That's all part of the rock concert experience, and then, of course, the concert itself was awesome. But I can tell you in 2019, in an outdoor venue where the crowd was considerably older than they were in the early 80s or mid 80s or whenever the hell that was that I saw them. We were able to sort of work our way very close to the stage in 2019 as compared to, wherever we were in the nosebleeds in the early 80s. But, I'm telling you, man, at 70 years old, Dusty Hill and ZZ Top were still bringing it. And, now you could say that, they weren't ever like, some band where they're jumping around doing a lot of craziness. ZZ Top, they conserve their energy. These are guys that are not going to wow you with physical prowess, but they do put on a show in, having coordinated moves and things. But I think they conserve their energy. It's all in the playing, man. I mean, again, Billy Gibbons is an awesome, amazing guitarist, and I would wish for anyone to be able to see a ZZ Top show. And as I say, who knows whether ZZ Top will go on as ZZ Top or Billy Gibbons and Frank Beard will make any kind of modification, or I don't know. Obviously this is it's far too fresh, and I'm sure that their decisions about how they will or won't. Maybe they'll just decide it's time to. They're done. I don't know. I don't know. I can only hope that Billy Gibbons will press on, but I raise. If I had a beer, this is my virtual beer. I raise my beer, tip a beer, to the great memory of the great Dusty Hill and the legacy of ZZ Top as a band. All right, let me quickly take care of then business. Again, this is an ongoing documentary of my personal evolution. This week I've got words, obviously, about ZZ Top in the wake of passing of Dusty Hill, being a fan. But again, I'm documenting from week to week my ongoing weight loss progress. Again, April the 20th. I started at 265. Last week I logged in at, and I'm not even sure, I think I might have recorded my entire video last week and may have never gotten around to saying what that week's weigh-in was. I was at 225.3 by the scale last week. And, the weight loss has definitely slowed. I'm definitely into a mode of, just sort of like, all right, just eat better, keep eating better, keep, adopting the habit of movement, move more, eat less, generally speaking, do the work, trust the results. This week, this morning, weighing in at 223.3, so roughly a 2-pound weight loss, but again, the scales are not scientifically calibrated. I complain about my scale from week to week. I wish they would be a little more dead on, at least consistent with itself. But my best weigh-in this morning at 223.3, and I don't mean best as in like that's the lowest. I mean it's the most consistent reading, 223.3, and hey, so progress, and that's the thing, right? It's part of my ongoing message to you. If you had, I wanted to say at 72 years old, Dusty Hill. You know, obviously, I'm sure as a guy that passes on as a man with no regrets, certainly, you know, having played in a single band for the better part of half a century, in the same lineup, right? I mean, not a band that is, you know, one of these bands where there's like one member left and maybe not even an original member or something, like the classic lineup, not the original members, but, you know, the one guitarist who was there when they hit it big and now he's the only one still remaining 3 decades down the line and that band is still playing that catalog of hits. Like, no, this is the same 3 guys loving what they did for about a half a century. So, you know, I'm going to say that I imagine, and certainly the documentary, the Lil Ol Band from Texas documentary gives you every impression that these guys loved the music, loved what they were doing, loved playing specifically with one another, and wouldn't want to be doing anything else. And that is, I think, at the heart of what it is that I kind of want to say this week, is that, you know, if you can pass at the end of your life, and I'll give a brief shout out to Robin Sharma, who I was fortunate enough, I took an online course from Robin Sharma, who, you know, I mean, I would say to you, just check out Robin Sharma for yourself. Robin Sharma is a, you know, kind of a coach in the area of personal development and really more about excellence and mastery. And you know, he's an interesting cat. But the course that I recently took from him online is just I didn't, you know, I don't know him personally or anything like that, but I took his course. It's available online, and the final day was like he wrapped it up in a very impactful way, which he sort of got you to project to being on your deathbed and sort of who are you surrounded by and what is it that they're saying about you, and you know, it was a really great cathartic exercise that puts you in mind of, you know, this is really kind of all the motivation I think that you need to say, you know, yeah, you know, this if you want to be able to look back on your life and be satisfied. And this is kind of, again, I'm tying it into Dusty. I would say to you, you know, it's what I'm trying to do right now, and what I beseech any of you who might be listening to me, take action, right? Take action. Don't wait for someday. I'm very, very familiar, obviously, as a guy who's 50 years old, and you know, there's a lot about my life that I really, really love. But there's a lot that I'm trying to do here, again, sort of late in life, to realize some of my dreams, right? When it comes to the writing and you know, being able to do some things creatively and make that what my life work is really about. Look, forget regret. Regret's not, you know, regret isn't a thing, and it's a wasted energy. It's you know, take action today. It's make progress, starting today, and whatever that vision that you hold for yourself, you know. I talk about the Jeff Olson book, The Slight Edge. I probably will continue to talk about it quite a bit. You know, make daily progress. Don't beat yourself up for getting off track. Just sort of continue to exercise awareness that you are off track whenever you find yourself off track, and make those course corrections and keep your eyes downfield, but take action. Don't wait for someday. Don't wait for, you know, well, someday when, you know, I have the chance, you know, right now I'm really bogged with responsibilities or this or that or whatever. If it means enough to you, you've got to clear the field and make the time and take action. And you know, even if You make these little incremental, that's really how it's done. You know, don't imagine that you're going to have someday where, you know, now I can finally take on that project, that life project that I really, you know, been looking to do. I want to finally write that book. I want to finally, you know, whatever it is, if you're a musician, I mean, if you've got an ambition to do anything or build a business, you know, I mean, obviously, I'm being myopic thinking about the creative arts. It could be, you know, a thing that you want to build. It might be, you know, whether it's, doesn't make any difference. If you've got an aspiration, begin to put those pieces in place. Start thinking about the plan. Start, you know, and take concrete action. Don't wait for someday. You don't want to look back and have regret. You know, again, I would say that's going to be a wasted energy. Get to enjoy the journey for sure. But, you know, if you know where you essentially want to go, if that's a passion, if you've got passion, if you've got a vision for something like, this is a thing that really drives me, don't let it just exist in your head and in your heart. You've got to take action and put it out into the world and take, you know, get past your excuses and get past your fears, you know, of what holds you back, because it's mainly an illusion, and nobody is thinking about you so hard, or whatever it is that you're, you know, if you're worried about being judged. Let me put it to you this way. I think it's, you know, it's, forget, like, I'm not going to say something as soft as, you know, you won't. No, you're gonna have critics. You're gonna, and that's the thing. So you start today developing that intestinal fortitude to say, go ahead, bring it on. Be my guy. You know, again, this is another thing that I say. I'm sure that a guy ranting into a video for 40 minutes, and again, I am trying to get these things to not be so long, but I get rolling and you know, they end up, you know, here I am, I'm looking at it, it's 42 minutes and change already. You know, yeah, I'm trying to evolve this thing. I realize that it's not as amazing and polished as probably what it's going to need to be someday when it's really working for me. Again, all of these things are evolving. I'm evolving as a Medium article writer. I believe that I've, you know, got some stuff out there that's fun, funny, thought-provoking, worth reading. Check me out on medium.com. As I said, the funniest damn thing that I ever saw about my adventures with Tom McGee in Chicago. There's a lot of other articles that, you know, if you find me anywhere on Medium, that's just the way Medium works. You can look at other things by this writer. You know, I've written a number of things, sort of mostly humorous, and hopefully some of it inspirational and helpful. And beyond that, you know, again, I'm doing screenwriting, I'm doing comic book writing, and all of it's an evolution. All of it, this is, you know, again, me trying to find, you know, I'm a little bit operating from square one. Hence, you know, you get, you know, I think this camera that I've got, it's an okay one, but I'm sure, you know, the camera, I will get, you know, I don't have one of those awesome mics. I'm working obviously with the built-in mic in the video, in the web camera here that I'm using. It's good enough. You're getting a good enough picture and a good enough sound for where I am right now. And the point is to keep pressing forward. Yeah, so yeah, again, there's my message. Inspired by the passing of Dusty Hill and a band that has a very long legacy in ZZ Top. Whether you're a fan of theirs or not, whether that's your brand of music or not, again, I just, you know, it inspired me to think about, don't reach the end of your life and look back with regret. And I'm you know, again, I'm sure that Dusty is a guy passing on without regret, because clearly he was doing exactly what he wanted to be doing right up until the day that he has left us. So, all right. Well, I think that more than says everything that I wanted to say for this week. I thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, all of that kind of good stuff. Be on the lookout for my stuff. Look for me on Facebook. Guamanian Winter is my personal page. Look for PM Collaborative is the comic book work with my friend Russ Phillips and Bill M. Morrison. PM Collaborative. We're going to be releasing things in the very near future, and probably have an announcement that I won't be your guy in Guam for a whole lot longer. I don't want to jump the gun, but I can tell you that it looks like our Guam adventure will be right around exactly a year. I can't get too far ahead of myself because, again, we're here because of my wife's contractor. She's a civilian contractor, but she does work with the U.S. Military in education, educating military families here, the children in here that are stationed here in Guam, and she'll be looking to do more of that kind of work in another slightly different capacity in another part of the world, very likely. You know, so I can't make, again, I can't. Things aren't official, so and they get very touchy about apparently people saying too much of anything before things have become official. So with respect to that, I just have to say that, you know, again, it looks like we're going to be here in Guam for about another month, and then I will be your guy somewhere else in the world, and won't that be so? Stay tuned for that. Thank you for following me, and we'll obviously keep. This will always be an update of my ongoing weight because it's immeasurable, right? It's a thing that, well, wow. All right, so thank you very much for following me, and until next week, you have a great week. Thank you.